Good morning, everyone. You're all very welcome to this webinar in the GCMA Know-How series. It's Tuesday, May the 25th, 2021. We're very lucky to be joined this morning by Jeremy Dale. Many of you will know Jeremy from his fame through trick shots, a very famous trick shot artist in the UK. But Jeremy also has quite a few different strings to his bow. He also is a speaker, as we'll be finding out today. He also does MCs at events and also an auctioneer, which I find quite interesting. So certainly very used to being in front of people, very much a people person, I would imagine. And a very successful career over 30 years as a PGA coach. But also as an entertainer. And that's really the reason why Jeremy is here today to talk to us, our GCMA managers, about golf as an entertainment tool, as a way of keeping the members engaged, and keeping the social side of the club running smoothly, and building those connections and relationships with the members and memories that last a lifetime. And really keep them emotionally connected to the club, and therefore making membership retention that much easier. So without any further ado, I will hand it over to Jeremy to give an introduction about himself. I'm sure he'll be able to do it an awful lot better than me, but Jeremy, you're very welcome today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. And no, that was a great introduction. I have, as you say, spent 20 years or more in the entertainment business, and actually that is the business that we are all in, whether we know it or not. People spend their leisure money playing golf, and why do they do that? Well, they love it, and they want to have fun, they want to be entertained, they want to play the game, they love the game. Which makes us in competition with every other entertainment that is going, including the cinema, including other sports, including the pub, including absolutely everything. And it seems to me that we don't really do that in golf clubs. And so the purpose of this half hour or 40 minutes or whatever it's going to be is to give you a few ideas on how to do that via things like special events, but it goes right through the club as well. I've got a menu of special events which I will share with you towards the end, and they're not difficult to organise. They do require a little bit of budget, but I think they're novel ideas. And my view of normal golf social events is, if you say golf social event to somebody, what do they think of? They probably think of a jacket and tie, 80s disco, an empty dance floor, the captain getting up and making a dreadful speech, and everybody looking at their watches about 9:30 going, I wonder how much longer this can go for before we can reasonably go home. And if you think of that, then I think that's where we really miss a trick. And corporate golf days are a big business in the UK and all over the world. I actually performed in 43 countries. People fly me and other entertainers out to these places. Because they value their customers. And I think, I started golf in the 70s and 80s and left for the 90s to Holland and learned an awful lot about things that we weren't doing in the UK over there. But I think the lesson from the corporate world is your customers are really important. And I think at the moment, we've hit a moment where this idea is really coming of age in the UK. We've had this lucky bounce where we've suddenly gained members because of COVID, or I hope you have. As most people gained in their membership. I throw a question out: are we going to get the first tumbleweed moment of the day? I hope we aren't. But
no, tremendously. We've had 172 since last July.
Oh, well done.
That probably would have taken us about 6 years in normal
times. Yeah. So and the golf club presumably didn't have to do anything for that to happen. It's simply circumstance.
No, it was just down to my skill.
Yeah, I thought that's what I meant. Richard, you're up at Denham, aren't you? Richard, your membership is up. Sorry to wake you up. Oh, he's on the phone. Sorry. Sorry, I didn't see that you're on the phone there. Anyway, so it would seem to me that membership is up mostly across the board, and that we've done nothing really to make that happen except have a pandemic, which means that the next problem is not getting the members, it's keeping them, so retaining them. And this is rather the thrust of my ideas. I think that we need to engage people, retain them, and a little bit about my background perhaps would explain how I've come to this. My first job in golf was as a caddy at the Open Championship in 1984. I caddied for a guy called John Garner, and I'd not turned professional then. Obviously, I was just out of school, waiting to go to university. And he was an extraordinary guy. He was a really good player. Played in Ryder Cup in the early 70s twice, and I met him on a golf holiday, and he became a really good mentor for me, and later helped me turn professional. But what really interested me was how he was as a person with everybody that he met. He was a very popular coach. He'd been a very popular player, and I could see why, because he really engaged 100% with everybody. Even the little things, when he checked in at a pro-am and we were caddying, he'd be super friendly to the person on the reception desk, and he'd ask them a question about how they were playing. Were they a member of the club? What was the handicap? He'd be really interested in people, and you could see in his coaching and in everything that he was that he wanted to be not a cheerleader exactly for the game, but he wanted people to love golf as much as he did, and he wanted to share that with them. And he had 100% engagement, and it was an amazing experience for me. At one point, Gary, we were just about to leave for the first tee on the practice ground, which was way over the other side of town at St Andrews, and then Gary Player jumped in our car and go, "John, can I join you? I'm a bit late for my start time." And so I rubbed shoulders with Gary Player, and he showed me how to play as well, and later on he helped me turn professional. But the one thing that he really did was he had 100% engagement, and I've tried throughout all my professional career to do that. And I've done lots of different things. I said I went to Holland, and I met another guy, John Woof was his name, at the Rijswijkse Golf Club in The Hague. And he was interesting as well because he did a show. He was a good player. He had a full lesson book. He had some sponsors, and he had, again, a way about him that drew people to him. And in Holland, the system was that the pro wasn't stuck in the pro shop selling Mars bars and golf balls. The pro was coaching and front of house. And to me, one of the things that I think is coming in England, in Britain now, is more pros are back of house than should be. And it is almost two roles. And again, that leads to an entertainment deficit, if you like, in a golf club. To me, there should be somebody who's really good at public speaking, for example. So that the captain, who flounders at the beginning of the year because they're not a good public speaker, perhaps, maybe they're very good, but somebody in the club needs to be a great public speaker, because then they do the prize givings, and that puts them in front of the members with a free advert and a chance to entertain their members, educate the members, inform them of what's going on, and be more visible. And that's very much what these two guys did. And they became superb mentors for me. John Woof taught me some trick shots, and then I gave a lesson to a left-hander, which was one of his pupils, and then ended up switching to left-handed, making my own show. And I've been doing that for 20 years, the switch hitting golf show. But they were very helpful to me, not just in what they taught me, but how they taught me to be. And I think that's something that in the UK we miss a little bit. I mean, I left the UK in 1989, and at that time, you couldn't get a decent cup of coffee, you couldn't get a decent pint of beer, you didn't get a smile at every touch point. And you know, the idea of the golf club being there for you was completely the opposite. You were there for the club. And you were lucky to be a member, and now I think these ideas are changing. I think they are, but what we need to do is retain these people. We've got these extra people, and they need to, once other sports come online, people can play football, go to football, play rugby, cricket, and the pubs are opening up, of course, as well. All the other entertainment like music festivals and all that kind of stuff will then start to happen, and that's our competition, and what are we going to do to retain these people? And the idea that I have, I've seen this work in Holland. The last club I was at was 4 years in a town called Enschede, which is easy for you to say, perhaps, but it's on the east side of Holland, right next to the German border. Unbelievable club, brand new, and what it absolutely rocked. The guy who did the restaurant hired a great chef, but he didn't charge enormous amounts for his wine, so that he would only make £5 or whatever on each bottle of wine. So he had something that would draw people in, great food and cheap wine for restaurants. A great atmosphere with all his bar staff. His recruitment was fantastic because everybody smiled. The pros, there were 3 of us, and we were all like-minded as well. We were all entertainment and minded, always interested and chatting and in the bar, not in the shop. And I think that's a really good model. I've never ever in 30 years worked in a pro shop, and I think that's really unusual. But I saw that and really working well in Holland, and the club thrived as a result, because the pros could then be front of house, chat with the members, and that was good for their business, obviously, because they could generate lessons just by chatting to people and saying, how was your game and all of that. But people felt that we cared, and we did, actually. We cared, and we made them feel good. And when I left, they said, one guy came up to me and said, your greatest thing is that you've made us feel good. And I think that's why we're there. That's why we're there. We're in the entertainment business. I keep saying that. So retention. What you want to give them, I think, are great experiences wherever you can. And I've touched on the role of the pro a little bit, and the course as well. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But I think great experiences are what bring people together. And also they make the club more than a commodity. If you think of what you're selling, is a membership a bundle of green fees? Or is it more than that? And what are we doing to make it more of that? I'll give you an example. I went to a club called Wolstanton Golf Club, which is in Staffordshire, and did a day there with Rob Maxfield, who you will know as the CEO of the PGA. And I've not met Rob, but he was terrific. It was his club, actually. He was a member there. And he walked in, and it was like walking into 1985. There were signs absolutely everywhere, including inside the loo, about what you could and couldn't do. I went, oh, right, this is a bit of a strange place. But it didn't, and signs everywhere, and yeah, the decor looked like it hadn't been touched since 1978. But it was a completely unfair reflection of how they were. They were brilliant. So they did a shotgun start. I did a show. Rob did a Q&A and a presentation about what the PGA did, and he brought the Ryder Cup with him, and he and I did a Q&A at the end of it. Great. And it rocked. It was great. They loved the show. And then at the end of it, they couldn't stop having their photos taken with the Ryder Cup. One member came up to me and said, I've been a member here for 40 years. We've never had anything like this. This is the best day we've ever had. And that was the one that came and told me. There would be many more who would go away with the same feeling, but obviously as a performer, they're not all going to come up and say to you, you're amazing, because that would be stupid. But they do feel that these things do make a difference. I've just done a show for a junior day at my golf club that I've just moved to in the Cotswolds, and we had 50 kids and 50 parents, and the buzz around the club now, and the following weekend, they were all and loads of kids on the course at sort of late in the afternoon. I was giving a course lesson, saw all these kids playing. It's like, oh, okay, maybe that has had an effect. And then the junior convener said to me, oh, yeah, it's unbelievable. We've got so many more kids now. And they're all talking about it. And it's like, oh, right, this thing does have an effect. And you can't necessarily see it, and people won't necessarily tell you. But if you offer them these things, then they're not going to go at the end of the year when they're paying their subscriptions. All right, how many times did I play multiplied by what's the green fee? Because that to me is the one thing that you really, really don't want them saying to you. Has anybody had that said to them? I mean, how many of you had? I mean, it's quite common, isn't it? Come in there.
Yeah, it just seems sort of endemic through every golf club that I've been either a member of or a manager of. That everyone always tries to equate it to the number of games played. But it's, as you say, it's so much more than that. You know, if you want to play golf and just play golf, go home, just pay a green fee. What are you doing being a member of a club? That's what I say to them in a nice way.
I'm sure you do. After July, it mightn't be different.
Oh yeah, then they can
so
go
right then,
hell.
Yeah, and we have to make it more. We have to do more. And I mean, I know you guys have got lots to do as it is, but again, I think perhaps the role of the pro would be more to provide the entertainment and the ideas. And I'm going to give you some ideas later, as I said. But that equation to me is a terrible indictment. If people are asking that, then you haven't made it just a place, you've made it a place to play golf and that's it. It's got to be more than that. All the best clubs are like Cheers in the famous TV show, and that's what I saw at this club in the east of Holland, Seabrook it was called. They just treated it like the pub. They came on Friday night just to have dinner there, and every night the bar was full, yeah, and not just with golfers, it was literally the pub where everybody knows your name. And I mean, I call this internal marketing, and it gets me onto a topic of marketing. Anybody got a budget of marketing, a marketing budget which is anywhere near 10% of turnover?
That's fantasy, but ideal.
Yeah, well, it's not. Well, not necessarily fantasy, but
in general.
But actually, I mean, I was talking to a guy who I'm acting as entertainment consultant to a few clubs, and telling about all this stuff and helping them create events. And one guy said to me, he was a chairman of a very successful real estate company. He told me that the marketing budget was £5,000 for a golf club with a turnover well over £1 million, and it's like, well, why? Because another club that I worked for had a loss rate every year of about 13%, which I was amazed that he even told me, because I would have gone, oh my goodness, that is so hard to make up. And what are you spending to try and stop that happen? I mean, you're going to do some, I understand that, because people move away or sadly die or just don't want to play anymore or whatever, but you can't be losing that many, surely. So some of the budget that is spent on marketing should be directed inwards, in my view. And you need to, or I would if I was in your position, which I'm not. And again, I don't completely understand your position. I can see that because I'm not a golf club manager. But yeah, these special events are great for what I call internal marketing, because they bind in the people that you already have, and also they make great salespeople if they are invested in the club. Then you have the chance to turn them into what marketeers call raving fans, and I'm sure you know that word. But people who will promote without even asking them, they'll promote your club, and that to me is the ideal situation. And once you start doing these things, it gives you something to do on social media, and written communications are really important as well. I'm a trained copywriter. I often get comments about how good my newsletters are and my LinkedIn posts as well, and people say, oh, I really like your stuff. And that is a skill worth investing in as well, either getting somebody trained up or hiring a professional copywriter to do not only the website, but also your email newsletters as well. I mean, I'm available, but there are other options as well, I'm sure. But you can train yourself to do it. That's what I've done. I've trained a guy for a lot of money, actually. I paid him a huge amount because I realized that my website was only speaking generally to people and not targeting the exact people that I wanted to get to come for a lesson or for booking the show. So I made it much more targeted, much more headline based. And if you have a headline on your website, here's a test, and it says, welcome to, let's say, Denham Golf Club, because that's the only one I know that that people are attached to. If that's your headline, then you've completely wasted the top bit of the bit that everybody sees. So, for example, if you've got welcome to the X Golf Club, then your copywriting is not headline based and not good enough. And the same will be true of your newsletters. I've just joined a different club. Got fantastic traction with a series of short game masterclasses, only because it was a catchy email. It was a cartoon with a queue at the post office for breaking 100 clinics. And one was smashing driver, and the other one was short game lessons. And the queue for smashing driver was a mile long, and there was nobody at the window. You might have seen it on, I think Rick Shields posted it. So I used that, and I said, breaking news, smashing drivers won't lower your scores. And of course, instantly then you've got a catchy headline. And somebody said to me, I said, why do you come? He said, well, just catch your email. I like the look of it. And that's what drew him in. So your online communication, certainly in a lockdown and a pandemic, is massively important. And it needs to be entertaining. I keep coming back to that word. So pro's got to be entertaining. If you're a general manager and you like being front of house, that's great. And that adds to the feeling that people can approach you. If you don't like that, then hire a pro who is, and have that person as the front of house. There's a fantastic director of golf at the golf club that I've just joined. It's called Feldon Valley. It's in the Cotswolds, and he's the face of the place. It's amazing what this guy does. He's absolutely on it. And almost nobody else is. I mean, the general manager is very back of house. And that is absolutely fine, because they all go and see Tom, and he's great. So, and they all know that. They're totally approachable. So, events. I'm going to try and get up a screen here and share my screen, if I can try and find it, with a menu of different events. Right, here we go. And no, some of them require a bit of budget, so you'll need to right, okay, hang on a sec. I need to share my screen first. Oh God, sorry. So some of these events require budget. Others are incredibly cheap to do. They just require a bit of knowledge. Share screen. What's that? Okay. Has that worked?
Yeah, I can see that, Jeremy. Yeah.
All right. Has that worked?
Perfect.
That's okay, is it?
Yeah.
Right, just roll through to the events bit. That's me at the Open, bottom left, in 1984. So it actually did happen, that. And behind the caddy there, that's Ken Brown, who we played with in the third round. That's little Johnny teeing off. Unforgettable week for me, that. And that was the kind of attitude he had. He hated people slicing, but he hated it even more if they weren't enjoying it. And I've lived by that. This is the clubhouse at that club in Enschede, which I talked about in the east side of Holland. And it was a fantastic place. It looks welcoming, doesn't it? Great terrace on the outside, looking over the 18th green. You can sort of see through, right through. Brilliant place. And this is the focus, entertaining our members. We want 8 special events that create a real buzz. These are just ideas that you can use. And you can take notes, obviously, if you'd like, but I have posted an article about this on my LinkedIn page just now. So if you're linked in with me, or if you'd like to be, then just link in with me and you can probably see the post anyway. And I think it's going to come in the notes anyway, is it not, Steve? Yeah. So 8 special events, because this is what we're after. It's taken at a show that I did years ago at Sandy Lloyd's Golf Club. And this is what we're after. Huge laughs, some great shots, and a buzz that people go away with feeling completely entertained. And I've used that photograph for a decade in my marketing. And I'm hardly in it. It's just great, I think. And that's what we need more of in golf. And there's kind of awareness, isn't there, that things have to change. You know, we're all feeling, okay, we actually do need to maybe relax dress codes or whatever. But to be honest, none of that, all of that is fiddling at the margins. What we want is to give people a massive buzz, like Norm in Cheers. He comes in and everybody says, hi, Norm. And that's what we want. So how do we do this? Well, you'll need a bit of budget for this one. But the first event idea is a Q&A with a famous player, and you can recognize the bloke on the right. He's fantastic at Q&As, and he's got a whole load of great stories. And I've had the great pleasure of being able to interview him quite a few times now. And he was on my podcast just recently for the Masters. And he's fantastic. And one of the things that I have found interesting is that these guys are a lot more comfortable with a good MC. So if you've got somebody, it doesn't have to be me, of course, but I am more than happy to do it. I love doing it. You need a good MC to get the best out of these guys, because you're investing quite a bit in getting them there in the first place. And you want the evening to just flow. And asking them to do an after-dinner speech is not necessarily what they're comfortable with, but interaction, give them a few questions, get them talking. And you need a skilled MC to be able to do that. And it does need to be a golfer, I think, who understands at least, I mean, I've not played like Sam Torrance, but I've tried and I've done things that, and he trusts me as well to ask him the right questions. He knows that I'm going to set the tone and then maybe take questions from the audience and do it in a way that's going to hold the whole evening together. But having somebody like him is amazing. And people then go, I mean, everybody who goes to an event like that, and you can charge for this. I mean, you don't need to just have it out of the club budget. You can charge a little bit and then fund a little bit out of the marketing budget if you've got it on. People will say to other people, you will never guess who we had at the club. And they'll go away with an amazing evening, and you can record it and it will give you something to post on social media for months afterwards. And yes, it's a big investment, but it pays back, and it's a great winter thing to do. If your course, for example, is a clay course, it won't be much fun in the winter to play. It'll soften up a treat, and you'll need something to keep the members happy during that time. The club that lost 13% of their members a year was exactly like that. And you could see why, you know, there's links courses down the road that were doing better. And so if you haven't got a course that's great for 12 months, then in the winter, you need to do something to make it a fun place to hang out. And this is a great way to do it. Again, Sam's on the top end, but there are other guys who played Ryder Cup in the 90s, for example, who would be a lot cheaper to do it with and would create a really nice evening. So the Q&A with a famous player is a great thing to do. Billy Foster is fantastic as well, caddy for Lee Westwood and Seve, of course. He's got some great stories about that, and he would be one that I would heartily recommend. I've seen quite a few, and it never fails because people love a story. So that's number one. Number two, I think that's Joe Miller, but I'm not completely sure. But a long driving competition. How many clubs? Does anybody do that at their club?
No.
No. Well, here's an idea. If you combine it with what I think is the most turgid day of the year in terms of fun, then you actually have a chance to make Club Championship Day a nice day for people who don't play well, which is basically everybody. Everybody comes into the Club Championship thinking, crikey, yeah, if I play really well, then perhaps, maybe I could have a chance. And they all try far too hard. They come off with a headache. And then what do? Because they've got a headache, they've tried too hard, and they go, I'll have a cup of tea and I'll go home. I'm just exhausted. And if it's too late, I've got to come back tomorrow. Oh my God, this is awful. And it's the only day of the year where people go, crikey, I'm glad I don't play for a living. And so what do? Well, when they come off, perhaps get them to hit 3 balls down the first fairway, get the pro there with the TrackMan to measure them, and get 25 qualifiers. What you can do also is break it up into ladies, men's, and also age ranges or age ranges or handicap levels, just to give everybody a bit of a go, and then have a final at the end, so that everybody's engaged, and then nothing better than watching 20 people hit 3 balls and heckling around the back. Put on a barbecue, have a band even, doing walk-up music perhaps for each of the competitors. And then even if somebody's played horribly badly, they go away, well, that was fun. Crikey, yeah, I really enjoyed that, and I don't feel too bad now. So you've cheered them up, and also raised bar revenue. And you can, the pro could do that for absolutely no money. especially if you've got a few drivers that he wants to sell, and he's got a track man. That means you don't even have to measure the shots out in the down the first fairway or the driving range, whichever suits better in terms of convenience. But what a great little thing to do. Wouldn't cost anything, would add to the pros profile, and would get people to hang around after club championship, because what you want is people to be around when the club champion gets his trophy, and that's just a nice thing to do to keep people there. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this, and it doesn't have to be exclusive. I mean, you might think, oh well, it's just for the 25-year-olds who's just going to smash it and win. No, you can break it up and do ages as well. Key though that it gets properly hosted. If your pro isn't a good public speaker and is a bit nervous about that, then get somebody in who is. And again, that wouldn't cost a huge amount to do, I don't think. It would be a really great idea, but I've never, ever seen it done. And I've told a lot of people about it. And I think that would be just a lot of fun. So anybody do anything after Club Championship Day to make people stay in the bar?
We have a competition in between the first and second round. So we have Club Championship tees off at 8 and 1. But we have a handicap competition in between. And we have a band as well, because we're very musical here at Shirley Park. Music.
Oh, okay, great.
A huge part of our social scene.
Well, I'm in a band. We must talk.
Predominantly, yeah, because I'm a guitarist. So.
Oh, yeah, right, me too. Right, we'll have a chat later. Right, great, great.
We have a band, and so perversely, the club championship is really well attended. And around the 18th green, it's a bit like your shop with everyone coming out of the clubhouse half ratzed with a pint in their hand, waiting for the leaders to come down. So, but my previous club, you could hear a pin drop at the club championship, because really you had 12 guys in with a shout. And at the end of the day, probably you only had 4 guys in with a shout, and that was about it. So I've experienced both ends of that. But I like the members' long drive competition. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, good. Anybody else do anything? I'll take that as a no. We won't allow the tumbleweed to blow for too long. But okay, anything you can do. I mean, it's great. It's actually great that Steve mentioned that, because that confirms what I thought. So I'm happy with, I'm pleased with that. This idea does actually work. If you put something on, people will hang around, and good for bar sales, good for general feeling, and good for cheering people up who've got a headache. So, and also you can combine this, if you want to really splash out, with hiring in Joe Miller for an event after the long driving competition. Get Joe on. And again, he's the guy that's better with an MC as well, but he's brilliant and people love him. He's really fun, and he hits it miles. Of course he does that, but he puts on a nice half-hour show as well. And then they can show, you can show them the members, yes, you think you're a long driver, but actually, no, you're not. And again, keep them there even longer. And again, you'll never forget it. Social media goes off, and you've got yourself then something that you can PR the club with. So again, should be part of the marketing budget, because you can do things with it. And then hire another long driving guy the following year and do it again with a different guy. And then they're not just going, right, we're going to have the long driving competition. It's like, which long driver are we going to have? Or should we have a trick shot artist or something else? So you can combine that with lots of different things. And I thank you, Steve, for coming in there with a good example of how it's done. I love his big bags at the back, don't you? 2 huge pro bags and 3 clubs in there. Anyway, this is another idea which, again, is something that I think people have not taken advantage of. This is 52 years ago, and Huddersfield Golf Club are still posting on Facebook about this. And again, this doesn't have to, I mean, it might cost a bit to get Gary Player there. But actually, this is a great thing, I think. And again, you can do this with Ryder Cup players from the 90s, for example, like Paul Way, Steve Richardson. They wouldn't cost a huge amount of money, and I'm doing events with them and acting as the master of ceremonies. So I've got a battery-powered public address system, put that on a buggy, And then I can interview them and engage the crowd and commentate and ask them questions about particular shots and experiences in the Ryder Cup. So it turns into an around with Alice kind of experience for the members. 9 holes or 6 holes, 18's too much. And a great thing to do perhaps after a shotgun start and then maybe a Sunday lunch, and then everybody out to watch great players. And of course, these guys get, every time they play in the Ryder Cup, they get a replica Ryder Cup as well. And I don't know whether any of you have ever seen the reaction to people when they see the Ryder Cup. All they want to do is have their photograph taken with it. So Paul's got a couple of them because he played twice, and Steve's got one, so they could bring those with them. You get photographs taken as well at the end, and a lovely atmosphere. There was one club that I was acting for as event organizer, and I said, I went onto their website. In 1992, they'd had an exhibition match. And the guy had been a member for a long time that I was talking to the chairman there. I said, well, that looked fun. He said, oh, yeah, what a brilliant day. You know, we had Jamie Spence and, I don't know, let's say Paul Way. I said, so you've done it again since? He went, oh, no. It's all over their website. 1992. They've waited 30 years, or they're hopefully going to do one next year. But I found that quite extraordinary. There's a whole page on their website. They're not thought to do it again. And again, it doesn't cost a huge amount. And again, you might be able to make it a break-even event by selling food and beverage on the day, or even making it a ticketed event. But something that, again, people love to do or love to watch. And you could even put your young club champion in there with them, make it a 3-ball, and then make it a sort of young versus old golfers. But people love to watch golf, and they love to hear about it being spoken about. And with an exhibition match, you can get both. So that's an absolute winner as well. Again, something great for the evening. Carl Morris is a good friend of mine, and he is excellent for an evening. Again, it's not just a technical game. You might think it is if you go on YouTube and Google golf, but you know, he's got some great stories, including how he got Louis Oosthuizen to win the Open and charged him money for painting a dot on his glove so that he could switch his attention on when he came to the ball and then switch it off again. So that was the on-off switch for Louis, and he won the Open at St Andrews that week. So great stories from the top as well, but also practical ideas for the average golfer to get better without changing their swing. And I've got a degree in psychology, and I think Carl's terrific at that. And you don't have to hire him for a day. Again, it's not even big money. You can hire him for a couple of hours for an evening in the winter, and what a great addition to club life. You know, you're part of your brief, since we're in the world of entertainment, is to entertain people, but also to inform and educate them. And what better way to do it than that? So I like that idea as well. Has anybody hired Carl?
No, one of our members has gone into that business. So he did his guinea pig presentation to our members, and people are still talking about it. He's very good. He's very good. He's just been featured in the Surrey Golf magazine. So
what's his name, Steve?
Jamie Burrows.
Good. Okay, so there's another name for people to look out for if they can't get Carl.
Young guy.
Yeah.
Easily.
No, I think it's all really interesting stuff. And it's stuff actually. Sorry, I'm talking over you, Steve. Carry on.
No. It's just easily relatable to Jamie. Very easygoing nature, and he was entitled, you know, how to break 80. And everyone thought, well, I'll never break 80. And it was just, you know, it was just changing perceptions a bit. I've been lucky enough to have a session with Carl Morris many years ago at a previous golf club. So yeah, it's not so much entertaining. That one is really, really informative, and it just makes you think. They're good.
Yeah.
Under the umbrella of entertainment, but.
Yeah, no, I would definitely put it under entertainment, but that doesn't mean it's hilariously funny. It's interesting is just as good, and no, it's interesting that how long afterwards people have talked about that. That's a great illustration of what I think that is so important. You see it at corporate golf days all the time. They have a great day no matter how they play, and they always remember the day if there's been something special on it. So, so interesting, and thank you. Anybody else come in on that they've used golf psychology evening at all, and how would it go? No, I'll give you a chance, but we'll move on if nobody's going to come in. Right, good. Next one. That's Ken Schofield. He made the European Tour into a multi-million-pound business from the 70s onwards. Bit of luck that he had Seve at the time and all those guys coming through, and Woozy and Faldo and Lyle, and winning the Masters and all that kind of stuff. But I did a Q&A with him at his home club at West Hill, and he brought the Ryder Cup along. Similar thing, really interesting stories about the business side of golf. And he was recently got into the Golfing Hall of Fame as well. So successful had he been. Him and Dean Beeman at the time were the absolute leaders in this. And he was really interesting, actually. And again, you might not expect that. And I interviewed him, and to keep the questions coming and keep it all flowing. And I think that was beneficial too. But again, everybody wanted a photograph with the Ryder Cup, including me. And you can see from the photograph that it was a fair few years ago now. But again, a great evening. So people don't have to be massive celebrities to be interesting. And again, it doesn't have to cost a fortune. You just have to use your imagination a little bit. Or ring me up and I will help you. Again, I don't want this to be necessarily a one-off. If anybody wants any help, even if you don't hire me, I'm here for you as a resource. Always happy to share ideas and help people out if they need it. Right, this is one which is particularly interesting to me. I'm a complete golf course architecture nut, and that happened because 25 years ago, a guy asked me in Holland, "So what are your favourite courses?" I went, "Oh, right, that's interesting." I went, "Rye, I love that. My brother's a member there. I love playing there on the south coast. I love Sunningdale New, not the old so much, but I love the new course. And there's a course in The Hague, the Haagse, the Koninklijk Haagse is what it's called, the Royal Hague. And it's an unbelievable links course in the dunes like Birkdale, but absolutely fantastic." He went, "Oh, that's interesting." He said, "They're all designed by the same bloke." And ever since then, I've read as much as I can about Harry Colt, who was the designer of all three of those. And I've been lucky enough to become friends with some course architects as well. And in particular, the one I'm thinking of is a guy called Mike Clayton, who, if you follow Mike Clayton on Twitter, you will be thoroughly entertained and you'll learn heaps as well. He's on a great podcast called State of the Game with Jeff Shackelford, who's an American commentator and architect for the Golf Channel, and hosted by a guy called Rod Murray, who's also a mate of mine. My wife's Australian, so I had a lot of time in Australia doing the show, and I've come across Mike at events. And he's since become actually the leading authority on course architecture. And this is one of the courses in Melbourne that he had a hand in, had in designing, called Peninsula Kingswood. Interesting development where they sold one club and redeveloped Peninsula, which was 2 courses. But it didn't look like this when I was there. It's completely changed, and it's now one of the top ranked courses in Australia. Anyway, people think that people aren't interested in course architecture, but that's not true. I've been lucky enough to go to Augusta National quite a few times and hosted people. And the first thing I want to do is look around the course. And so I take them around and talk about the changes in Augusta since it opened, which have been huge, actually, and people aren't really aware of. Nor are they aware particularly that Alistair Mackenzie designed a lot of the holes on Augusta after famous links courses in the UK. For example, the 5th hole at Augusta is designed on as a semi-replica of the road hole, but without the bunker. The 12th hole is a replica of the 7th at Stoke Park. There was the 7th hole used to have no bunkers around it, and it used to be a drivable par 4. Byron Nelson actually drove it, and it had a Valley of Sin like the 18th at St Andrews. The 8th hole is the 17th at Muirfield, and all these things people are absolutely fascinated by when they get to Augusta. And people think that people don't really care about course architecture, and they do, and they're interested about it. So and an evening with a famous course architect is a brilliant way, certainly around Augusta time, around the Masters time. You probably couldn't do an outdoor event at that time with any, we play golf obviously, but doing a show or an exhibition match or whatever in that time would be risky because of the weather. But you could do a course architecture evening on the Friday of the Masters, put the big screen up afterwards and let them watch, and have, you know, somebody like Mike, who's coming to England actually for the summer, most summers now. Have somebody like Mike, or Jamie Edwards would be another one. There's other good architects that we could get that would be good in front of a live audience. So that, I think, is a really interesting thing. And it's a subject on which most people have unbelievable ignorance. So, straw poll. Who's read this? Who's heard of it? Heard of the author? Anyone heard of the author? Well, we've got 3 nods. I can't see everybody.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, if you haven't read it, you really ought to, because, hang on a minute, because Alistair Mackenzie designed 4 of the top 10 in the world on pretty much any ranking. Well, he didn't design St Andrews, but he revered the old course at St Andrews. Because of the width, the strategy, the fact that the bunkers were in the way, the firm turf and the surfaces and the slopes, and the idea that anybody could play it without too much hindrance. He was a big believer in that the course should be arranged so that the long handicap player or the beginner should be able to enjoy his round. And this is an absolute must, I think, if you're in charge of a golf club. And you want to know how to set up your course so that you get this, that everybody likes it. Mike Clayton always says, easy 90, difficult 70. Like Pinehurst, for example, which, if you don't know, it has big slopes, but no rough. And Mackenzie was totally against big rough at the sides. He said, if a man slices, then you should feel sorry for him, not make him lose his ball. So the absence of thick rough, lost balls, and thick grass in front of a tee, for example. A good player wouldn't even look at that. The average player who tops his drive loses, well, 3 minutes now on looking for a ball. So again, the changing the rule has actually got to mean that we cut the rough down. But we want the course to be entertaining. And if it's too penal, then it won't be. We've all watched Kiowa Island, and actually that had a bit more width than many PGA setups, and was better for it. I think it allows the players to play and takes and means that the recovery shots are a big factor, and those are some of the most exciting shots that you'll see. And again, we want entertainment in not only playing golf but watching it too, and course setup and how your course looks, or not looks particularly, but sorry, that's the wrong word, but how it plays is really important. Really important. Firm surfaces are what you want if you can get them. Again, if you're on clay, then you're going to struggle with that in the winter. Wide fairways, so that, and also Mike Clayton always says, and Mackenzie was the same, the look from one side should be completely different to the look on the other. So there should be an advantage to going one side of the big fairway or the other. So it's not about, oh, you can hit it anywhere. No, you can't. You get the best advantage from one side, and usually Mackenzie would usually put a huge hazard right where you wanted to be, a bit like the old course. But anyway, Mackenzie is a must read because he revered the old course, which is #1 on any list of top 10s, and he designed Augusta National, Pasatiempo, and Royal Melbourne, all of which are regularly in the top 10 in the world. And if you own or run a golf club, why would you not want to read the writings of the best writer about golf course architecture, but arguably the greatest golf course architect ever? So that's my pitch to you. I'd love it if there was a bit more interest and excitement about the whole idea of golf course architecture. And I think GCMA should be leading on that. And it's, yeah, disappointing if you've not delved into that world as golf club managers, in my view. Right, here's another event. Shootout, nearest the pin. Again, exactly what Steve was talking about after the club championship. This would be a similar variation. It depends a bit on the layout of your course, but what a great evening! It speaks for itself. And what it is effectively doing is bringing top golf to your course. Fantastic! Everybody's seen the photos of people having fun at Top Golf. Right. Well, let's have a bit of that in the golf clubs. And there's one club that I'm working with that had a par 3. It was brilliant. There was a terrace, and then down to a sort of plateau first tee. and then there was a 160-yard par 3, and they could have set up a band outside, barbecue as well, and that's one of the things hopefully that we'll do, and then have 2 shots each at the first hole with everybody gathered around heckling. What a great evening that would be after a charity golf day. And what you're probably noticing is that all of these events are focused on golf. They're not social events where it's just a band and a speech, or a disco and a speech. They're all focused around the game, which everybody loves. And I think this one is it's dead cheap to do. You wouldn't need anything other than a microphone and the band, of course, but you'd make that back in beer sales and wine sales and food sales. So again, a really nice one to do. I saw that poster on LinkedIn. So there is actually a club that did this, and I nicked their poster, but I thought it was really good. So hats off to them. I really love the trick shot. Yeah, my stuff, entertaining and fun, and helps people see the game in a different way, whether they are old or young. I love that photograph. You see the excitement of seeing a shot. That's my vertical driver, goes up 300 feet and comes down 20 yards ahead of where I hit it. So that's a fun shot, but that's a really cool photo. That is what we're looking for: inspiration and an instant attraction and love of the game. And everybody in between loves it too. Again, the huge laughs. That's Golf Live at the London Club with a guy called Rhys Davis, who was invited along, top player at the time, lost his way a little bit, but really good guy. And we did a superb show together. It was really good fun. And you can see from the smiling faces that is what we want. So there we are. There's 8 ideas for you there. They require a bit of budget, but I think they're all doable. And I can help you with absolutely all of them if you want me to. And I'd love to be involved if you want that and think it's a good idea. If you feel like you could do it yourself, even better, great, fantastic. But don't just do one. If you do one, you get a bit of buzz. If you do one every 3 months, then you've got a real chance of gaining momentum and that big thing, retaining the members that you've got. Make your best clients work harder. Yeah, make them your best salespeople. Work your best clients harder. Get them spending more at the bar. Getting people along. Bring them. Another idea that I haven't mentioned is a bit of joined up thinking with junior lessons and Sunday lunch. So if you put on a cracking Sunday lunch and you go, okay, at 1:45, the assistant pro is going to walk through the room and go, right, any kids here? It's golf time. We're going to shut the range, create a little golf course. And whatever age, they can go with the assistant pro for an hour, hour and a half, whatever. Mum might not be a golfer, let's say. She gets a glass of wine with dad. Dad's happy because the kids are learning golf, and the kids are relieved because thank God we don't have to sit at the dining room table after food's finished. Everybody's happy. The club has a buzz to it, and you're instantly feeding a younger membership, because at the end of it, the assistant pro goes, right, kids, what do you want to do next week? And what are they going to say? They're going to go, we want to do this. So Sunday lunch becomes a regular thing at the golf club. Joined up thinking, that's what you need. And making events happen that just put a smile on people's faces and tick all their boxes. I said it earlier, this article is on LinkedIn. I've just posted it. So it's today's post. It'll be the first one. I think it's a pinned post as well. So if you're on LinkedIn and I don't think you even need to connect with me to see it. So, but if you want to connect, I'd be delighted. So please do that. And there we go. Golf's greatest hits. That's me. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope that's been useful. I feel like I've spoken a lot. And Steve, thank you for your contributions. But everybody else, thank you for listening and staying to the end. We've gone on for more than we expected. But I hope it was interesting.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Gavin, would you like to add to that?
Yes, sorry, I was just trying to, can you stop sharing your screen?
Oh, I think, yeah. I can stop share. Sorry, I'm a complete amateur at this. So
you're all right.
Yeah, there we go. We're back now.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Jeremy. Any questions for Jeremy while we have him here, first of all?
I wouldn't mind a couple of moments afterwards, Jeremy, on both on music and
okay.
My retirement. That was all. Just got an idea.
Okay, we'll stay in the room and we'll have a bit of a chat after. All right.
If we had known, we could have had a jamming session.
Yeah, no, I've actually got my guitars downstairs. So.
I've got one there. don't want to bore people.
Yeah, so I would just sort of very briefly, Jeremy, say thank you very much for that. Obviously, the LinkedIn invitation, you have it there, open to everyone. Also, have a look at Jeremy's website. He does practice what he preaches on websites. It's a website that really captures your attention, and but you have all the information there that you need without loads of text and welcome to, etc. The notes from this will be available to anybody on the call. I can quite happily send those out to you as well. I concur. MCing is not easy. I'm a rank amateur at this, and yeah, asking the right questions is not. And that's why I said to Jeremy, "No, you go ahead." I wouldn't attempt to ask those questions. Architecture, I think, is a really interesting point that you make, and you've given me a very good idea for a webinar. I've got a very good friend called Agustin Pisa, who I met when I was out in Mexico.
Oh, yeah,
and
I know him. I know of his father. I don't know him, but
yeah, he's a very progressive architect, so I'll certainly get him on a webinar. So keep your eyes out for that. And
I'd love to do that with him, actually. If we could do it together, that'd be great.
Oh, okay, yeah, good. Really good point about identifying your club's public speaker. Whoever's comfortable, I think, is very important. And it's not always the club manager or the GM, or it's not always even the pro, but every club should have that person who is actually comfortable and good at it, and gets that atmosphere going as well, doesn't he?
I think that's right. And actually, I think the pro, or let's say it's the pro. I mean, it doesn't have to be, of course. It could well be the GM. But what they can do also is train the captain, because if the captain's bad, it's horrendous for 6 months until he gets or she gets the hang of it. But if they get a bit of help with it, because it's not hard to coach, and if they just start off with doing a double act, then they're much more comfortable. There's somebody holding their hand, like the GM or the pro will hold their hand. And I think the case for making two appointments for professionals, one back of house, one front of house, is a strong one as well. That's what we did in Holland. We didn't really have a back of house pro. We had somebody else running the shop. But your front of house guy isn't going to want to do the back of house stuff, and the back of house guy isn't going to want to do the front of house stuff. They're usually mutually exclusive.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, I think unless there's any final questions for Jeremy, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Great.
Okay, great. Final big thank you, Jeremy.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's I hope it's been interesting and useful and different, maybe to what you would normally get. So.
Definitely. I'll let you guys stay on for a few minutes if you want, okay. But I'll stop the recording there.
Okay.